The internet thought Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin's story was over. But then 50 Cent opened his mouth and everything changed. It wasn't during a press conference. It wasn't a diss track. It was a quiet moment, one interview, one sentence that shook the whole industry. "Jim ain't leaving 'cause he's tired," 50 said, eyes cold and steady. "He's leaving 'cause love doesn't fit the game he's playing now." And just like that, boom, the truth everyone tried to bury started crawling out from the shadows. Old videos resurfaced, clips from Love and Hip Hop, old interviews, moments we all missed. Suddenly, they looked different. Fans began connecting dots, asking questions no one wanted answered, because if it's 50s, right? Then this breakup wasn't heartbreak. It was a strategy. Something powerful was happening behind closed doors. Something that forced Jim to choose between love and loyalty, between the woman who stood by him for years and the people who now controlled his future. And 50 Cent. He didn't just hint, he exposed what he revealed next would leave fans questioning everything they ever believed about. Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin's love story. It started like an ordinary podcast night. Dim lights. The studio mic is glowing red. A small crowd of producers, assistants, and camera crew buzzing in the background. And right there sitting in the center, calm and composed, was 50 Cent. He had that same energy he always carried. Confident, untouchable, like a man who had seen too much and wasn't afraid to say it. The host smiled, trying to keep the mood light. They laughed about old rap beefs, industry hustle, money, power, all the usual. But then came a question that froze the air. "Yo, Fif," the host said, leaning forward, "what's your take on Jim and Chrissy? That's years of love, and now it's over just like that." 50 didn't answer right away. He leaned back, one hand on his chin, staring straight into the lens like he was talking to the audience, not the host. And then he said it, slowly, coldly. "Jim ain't walking away. He's being walked out." The host blinked, confused. "What do you mean by that?" 50's voice dropped lower. The room went silent. "The industry doesn't like loyalty, my guy. They don't want you tied to something real. They want control, image, manipulation. Love doesn't fit the brand. Not when money's on the line." Everyone froze. The camera guy stopped mid-pan. Even the producer's eyes widened. It was that kind of truth. The kind you can't laugh off. The clip hit the internet that same night. A short, raw 90-second reel. No background music. No editing. Just a 50's voice and that cold stare. And within hours, it blew up. Twitter went wild. Instagram fan pages reposted it. YouTube channels cut the soundbite and uploaded reaction videos titled, "50 Cent just exposed Jim Jones and Chrissy's whole relationship." People were stunned. Not because it was 50 being messy, but because it sounded too real. Comments flooded in. "50's seen too much to be lying. He's warning Jim, not dissing him. This feels like a message." Someone even pulled up an old Love and Hip Hop clip, Chrissy crying, saying she didn't recognize Jim anymore. And just like that, 50's words became the missing puzzle piece in a decade-long mystery. Suddenly, fans were connecting dots. Why hadn't Jim married her yet? Why did he always dodge personal questions? Why did their energy change after he signed new deals? A viral tweet said it best. 50 just confirmed what we all felt. Jim didn't fall out of love. He fell under pressure. Within 24 hours, blogs picked it up. The Shade Room, Hollywood Unlocked. VLAD TV, all running headlines like 50 Cent claims Jim Jones' relationship was industry controlled. Was Jim forced to leave Chrissy? The timing was eerie. Because that same week, Chrissy had posted a black and white selfie with the caption, "Sometimes love ain't enough." Fans flooded her comments. "Stay strong. Queen, you deserve better. He'll regret this." But she never replied. She didn't have to. Her silence said it all. Meanwhile, Jim was trying to act unbothered. He posted studio pics, selfies with friends, laughing, partying. But people noticed something off. His smile wasn't reaching his eyes anymore. His captions were darker, like someone trying to convince the world he was fine. One said, "Business moves. Gotta stay focused." And fans instantly caught on, because business moves was exactly what 50 had mentioned. The pressure behind the curtain. Then, another old clip resurfaced to 50 from years ago, saying in an interview, "The industry don't want real love. Real love makes you loyal. Loyalty makes you unpredictable." That line started trending. TikTok edits paired it with slow music and scenes of Jim and Chrissy's best moments. Clips of them laughing, hugging, dreaming, now cut with 50's haunting words echoing over it. The industry don't want real love. Viewers flooded the comments. This hits different now. They were never allowed to win. Jim sold his happiness for an image. It wasn't long before insiders began whispering. A source close to production told a blog that Jim had been advised to step back from Chrissy because the relationship was hurting business. Apparently, some sponsors thought his image as a family man didn't sell as much as the street legend narrative. That was the real shocker, because it meant this wasn't just heartbreak. It was manufactured heartbreak, and who better to call that out than 50 Cent, the man who's been fighting that same system for years. Then 50 did what he always does, dropped a post that sent chills. A black screen, white letters, 3 words, "Business before feelings." Caption. No hashtags, just silence and millions of people reading between the lines. Every outlet connected it to Jim. Every fan reposted it. And once again, 50 had managed to control the conversation, not by shouting, but by revealing behind the scenes. Chrissy was reportedly hurt but composed. A friend told the Neighborhood Talk, "Chrissy's not surprised. She's just tired. You can only fight for love so long when money keeps winning." That quote broke hearts across the internet. People started defending her, calling her the most loyal woman in hip-hop who got caught in a man's fame game. Meanwhile, Jim's silence was deafening. No denial, no clarification. Just that same pattern of avoiding the topic, and that only made fans believe 50 more. They said if it wasn't true, Jim would have spoken up. He knows 50's telling facts, and that's why he's quiet. The breakup wasn't just a love story gone wrong. It was a lesson about what happens when real emotions clash with an industry built on illusion. By the end of the week, 50's clip had millions of views. Podcasts debated it. Fans turned detectives. Even celebrities started reacting subtly, liking posts, dropping cryptic comments. It felt like everyone knew something except the public. And as that wave of speculation grew, one thing became clear. 50 hadn't spoken to destroy Jim. He'd spoken to expose the truth. A truth that was darker, deeper, and far more dangerous than anyone imagined. Because behind Jim's silence and Chrissy's tears was a system built to destroy anything real, especially love. And this, as 50 hinted, was just the beginning. The morning after 50's interview went viral. The internet was on fire. Every gossip blog, every hip-hop page, every reaction channel had only one headline. 50 Cent says Jim Jones was forced out of love. But while fans argued online, something was happening quietly behind the scenes. Calls were being made. Meetings were being scheduled. And the people who really ran things were not happy, because when 50 speaks, the industry listens even if they pretend they don't. Rumors started swirling that certain executives from Jim's label were reaching out to PR teams, trying to control the narrative. Some even claimed that damage control emails were being sent, warning insiders not to engage or comment on 50's claims. But it was already too late. The story had taken a life of its own. In a city like New York, secrets don't stay hidden. They travel fast, especially when someone powerful wants them out. And from the look of things, 50 didn't just slip up and mention Jim's name. He had a plan. Because just 3 days later, during another live stream, he doubled down. "People forget I saw that whole game from the inside. I know what them meetings look like when they tell you who to be with, how to act, and when to leave." He paused. Jim's not the first. He just played it too long. That line hit like a bullet. People started digging into Jim's past deals, sponsorships, and industry ties. And slowly, disturbing pattern began to emerge. Right around the time Jim's music was being pushed harder than ever. Tours, quabs, press runs. His personal life started crumbling. That wasn't coincidence. That was coordination. That was coordination. Industry insiders later whispered that certain label heads felt Chrissy was a distraction. They reportedly told Jim he needed to rebrand to focus on legacy, not love. In simpler terms, cut ties with Chrissy or lose the backing. And in that moment, Jim faced the kind of decision most people never have to make between the woman he loved and the world he'd built. For years, Chrissy had stood by him through legal trouble, career setbacks, even public humiliation. She'd been his anchor when everything else fell apart. But in the music industry, loyalty doesn't always pay. Profit does. That's what 50 meant when he said he's being walked out. It wasn't that Jim stopped loving her. It was that he was guided out of it, slowly, systematically. Those close to Chrissy noticed the change immediately. He stopped calling during shoots. He skipped out on family dinners. He stopped talking about marriage altogether. It was like watching someone slowly disappear in front of your eyes. A close friend of Chrissy later told a magazine it wasn't a breakup. It was like he got rewritten. Like somebody edited who he was and deleted her from the script. And that's exactly how it looked from the outside, too. Meanwhile, 50 Cent, ever the strategist, kept feeding the fire, little by little. He didn't post gossip, posted clues. One day he dropped an image of chess pieces with the caption, "You can't win the game if you don't know who's moving you." Fans instantly linked it to Jim. Comment sections exploded again. He's talking about the execs behind Jim. It's his deep industry talk. 50 knows too much. And maybe he did. Because people forget, 50's seen these tactics for decades. He's watched rappers forced to change partners, hide kids, fake relationships, all for image. He'd seen deals made in boardrooms where love was just another marketing obstacle. The same thing, it seemed, was happening again. But here's where it gets darker. Sources close to Jim began leaking bits of information. Nothing too obvious, just fragments of truth. One insider said Jim was emotionally torn apart. Another said he was doing what he had to do to keep the machine moving. And a third, someone who'd worked with both Jim and 50, revealed something shocking. 50 found out because he was in one of those rooms. He heard the conversation years ago. They were talking about how Jim's image needed to shift and Chrissy didn't fit the new direction. That was the smoking gun. If 50 had heard that himself, it meant his interview wasn't random. It was revenge. Revenge for the way the industry manipulates lives and calls it marketing. And as if that wasn't enough, Chrissy's silence finally broke. Not in words, but in emotion. She posted a short clip on Instagram, her sitting alone by the ocean, captioned, "I fought for what I thought was mine." Turns out, nothing really is. It wasn't direct, but it said everything. The comments were heartbreaking. "Stay strong, Queen. They can take him, but they can't take your peace. You deserved better than this system." And while fans comforted her, 50's followers were dissecting every word he'd said. They noticed something, a pattern. Every time, 50 posted something cryptic about the system. The machine or the puppets. It seemed to align with something happening in Jim's life. Coincidence? Maybe. But most didn't think so. Then came the interview that sealed everything. A radio host asked 50 directly, "So you're saying Jim's breakup wasn't real love?" 50 smiled, that same quiet smirk. "I'm saying real love don't survive in fake spaces. That's all." That one line broke the internet again. Clips flooded TikTok. People began comparing Jim's story to other artists, saying it was part of a bigger pattern. Love sacrificed for power. And through it all, 50 just sat back and watched the chaos unfold. Because whether people hated him or believed him, the truth was out. He had done what he always does, dropped a bomb and let the world figure out the pieces. Meanwhile, Jim stayed silent and Chrissy disappeared from social media. The love story that once defined hip-hop had turned into a case study, a reminder of how the music business can turn hearts into headlines. And for 50 Cent, it wasn't just about Jim. It was about every artist who had ever been told that love is a liability. He wasn't just exposing one man, he was exposing an entire system. And the scariest part? The system was listening, because not long after his words went viral, brand deals paused. PR teams panicked and phone calls were being made to silence the noise. But 50 didn't care. It already lit the fire, and now the world was watching, waiting to see what came next. Because if 50 was right, then Jim's heartbreak wasn't just personal. It was proof that in the world of fame, even love has a price tag. Days passed, but the internet wasn't calming down. In fact, it was getting louder everywhere you looked. TikTok edits, YouTube shorts, podcasts, gossip blogs. One question echoed louder than ever. Who made Jim walk away? At first, everyone thought it was about ego, fame, or pride. But 50's cryptic posts and the strange silence from Jim and Chrissy hinted at something much deeper, something that wasn't meant to be seen, because when love dies, there's usually pain. But when love is killed, there's always a motive. And 50 Cent was about to expose exactly that. 3 nights later, 50 went live again. It wasn't announced. No promo, no warning. Just a dark screen, and then his face appeared. Calm, focused. He spoke slowly, his voice carrying that same sharp edge that always meant trouble. See, y'all think it's about cheating or fame or whatever, but it's about control. When they can't control you through your money, they control you through your heart. The chat went insane, tens of thousands watching live. He leaned in and continued. They knew Chrissy had his loyalty. They knew as long as she was around, he wouldn't play their game the way they wanted. So they took her out of the equation. Silence. He didn't name names. But everyone knew who they were. The people sitting in the Hyries offices, pulling invisible strings over artists' lives. And then he dropped a bombshell that sent chills across the internet. You think I don't know? Was in that same room when they told him? We can make you bigger, but you gotta cut ties with anything that keeps you grounded. The comments exploded. What? 50 was in the room. So this was planned. It was the confirmation fans had been waiting for. 50 had finally connected the dots. He wasn't guessing. He had seen it happen. And once again, the headlines followed. 50 Cent confirms industry pressured Jim Jones to leave Chrissy. The truth behind Jim's breakup, control, power, and image. But while the internet was busy analyzing his every word, something even more shocking happened offline. Chrissy came back after weeks of silence. She posted a video, no makeup, no filters, just raw emotion. She looked straight into the camera, voice shaking but strong. I loved him. I still do. But there's a point where you realize you're not fighting your man anymore. You're fighting the people who own his peace. The internet froze. Nobody expected her to speak, okay? But she didn't stop there. They made him believe love was weakness, okay? They made him choose between being powerful and being happy, okay? And that's how they win every single time. Tears welled up in her eyes, but her tone stayed fierce. I just hope one day he realizes it wasn't about money. It was about keeping his soul. That video hit like lightning. Millions of views in hours. Celebrities commented with hearts, prayer emojis, and "Stay strong, Queen." Even fans who used to criticize her came forward with apologies. You never lost him, the industry did. This is deeper than love. This is modern slavery. But perhaps the most powerful reaction came from, you guessed it, to 50 Cent himself. He reposted Chrissy's video with a caption that said, "Now they can't say I was lying." That post broke the internet again. People realized this wasn't just 50 being messy or stirring drama. This was a man exposing a broken system, one that destroys real connections for the sake of profit. And Jim, he stayed silent. But silence can speak louder than words. For days, fans begged him to respond. He posted nothing. No studio clips, no party pictures, just darkness. Then, one night, a mysterious post appeared on his story, a quote that read, "Sometimes you've gotta lose yourself to see who's been pulling the strings." That was it. No tags. No explanation. And that single sentence convinced everyone 50 and Chrissy were telling the truth. Because at that point, it wasn't about whether Jim left Chrissy willingly. It was about why he thought he had to. Behind the scenes, more whispers started to leak. Producers from Love and Hip Hop reportedly confirmed that networks wanted Jim to appear more independent. PR teams had discussed separating him from domestic storylines. In plain language, they wanted to erase Chrissy. Why? Because a free man sells better. A heartbroken man writes better songs. And a controlled man signs bigger checks. It was all business, cold, emotionless, perfectly planned, and 50, who had been through that same machine years ago, recognized the pattern the moment he saw it. He wasn't just exposing Jim's story. He was trying to save him from becoming another product of the system. He'd seen what it did to people, artists who lost their families, their peace, their sanity, all because someone in a boardroom said, "It's better for the brand." And maybe that's why he couldn't stay quiet. In his next interview, 50 said something that summed it all up. "I ain't saying Jim's a bad dude. I'm saying he got trapped. Same trap they set for all of us. Fame is a cage. They just dress it up in gold." That line went viral. People were calling it one of 50's realest quotes ever. But the story didn't end there. Because not long after Chrissy's video, something unexpected happened. She started her own podcast, the first episode, titled Love in the Industry. What they don't want you to know, she didn't name names. But every story she told mirrored her own about artists being manipulated, couples torn apart, people losing themselves for the spotlight. And in that moment, it was clear. Chrissy had turned her pain into purpose. The same woman who once cried on TV for love was now standing tall, using her voice to uncover the truth. And guess who showed silent support? 50 Cent. He reposted her trailer with just one emoji, no words needed. It was a silent nod. "You got this." By the time the dust settled, fans realized this wasn't just another celebrity breakup story. It was a mirror held up to the industry showing how money, image, and control destroy the very thing that makes artists human. Jim Jones and Chrissy's love story might have ended. But what it revealed would stay forever because, thanks to 50 Cent, people finally saw the truth. That in a world full of fake smiles and billion-dollar contracts, the most dangerous thing you can be is real. And that's exactly why love, pure, honest human love, never survives long in the spotlight. The music stopped. The lights dimmed. But one thing remained clear. 50 didn't expose Jim to destroy him. He exposed him to free him. And in doing so, he reminded the world that behind every headline, behind every breakup, and every viral clip, there's always something the cameras were never meant to show.